Good afternoon and welcome to the Rowan stage. My name is Trisha Malcolm and I'm the editorial director for Vogue Knitting magazine. And today I'm interviewing these wonderful men here, Arne and Carlos, who are here with us from Norway. So let's start with talking about your knitting past. Do you want to tell everyone about when you started knitting and how knitting is so much a part of your life?
Should I start? Yeah. I started to knit when I was very little, so I don't remember, but I grew up in a very old farm and it was very old-fashioned. So we were like 4 generations in the same house and there was no TV, we had a radio, and I had a great-great-grandfather who told stories. So in the evening I was knitting with my mother, grandmother and great-grandmother, listening to my grandfather or the radio if he was boring. So I started really early, so it was my hobby for many, many years.
Yeah, and I come from a very different background. Arne is from a very small farm where the family has been for almost 500 years. I come from, my father is an engineer and he worked for Ericsson and was head of installations of telecommunications in South America. So traveled all over the world. I was born in South America and then have lived all over the world, very urban. There was a knitting craze in the late 70s, early 80s when my mother became very interested in knitting, and I must have been about 10 years old. And I would see my mother and all her friends knit. And one day I asked her if she could show me how to do it, and I was interested for about 5 minutes. I made a little bracelet, or half a bracelet maybe, and then I left it. And then I met Arne, and we started a brand, ARNE CARLOS, but it was originally a fashion brand, and we were producing ready-to-wear. And when we were making all these garments, especially the knitwear, industrially, and I was working with that, I told Arne that I should know how to knit a sweater in order to be able to produce a sweater, even if hand knitting and industrial knitting is quite different. So he taught me, and now I'm back to, now I'm doing the knitting for about 10 years.
Now you both crochet as well, right?
Yep.
What sort of things do you like to crochet?
I like to crochet everything that cleans up in the studio. So it can be, there's a lot of blankets. I love to make crochet blankets, and when you finish a crochet blanket you feel so lucky. It's like a relief. It's like, but the box with yarn is never empty, so you buy new yarn all the time. So.
And Arne has a very special way of cleaning as well. For example, it's one thing to find a lot of yarn and then decide I want to clean and make it into a crochet blanket. But do you know, when you're here in these kind of places and you look at color cards, well, Arne decides sometimes he wants to clean the color cards too. So he cuts the yarn and then he knits miniature crochet blankets for the dollhouse.
So I don't throw anything.
This is true. He doesn't throw anything.
That's amazing. Let's talk about knitting then. What sort of things do you like to knit? What are your favorite things to make?
It depends on what we're doing at the time. I'm very into what I'm doing like there and then. And like the last weeks, I've been doing samples in Trisha, and that was really funny, but I am so bad at it. It's horrible. I have to go to one of these courses where you learn how to do intarsia, because that's not something I knew from before.
But it's fun.
It's really fun to make all these pictures on front of a sweater and things, but I have to practice. So right now I think that is really funny.
Yeah.
But my stitches are lousy.
And me, I love doing all the little things. We got into sock knitting because we started working with Regia to do the designs for them, the Regia design line and the Regia Perfect. And I became quite interested in sock knitting when we started working with the development of the yarns. And sock knitting is really good because it's very easy to take with you. If you have like a really big sweater in pieces, it's kind of hard, but you know, when you just grab a ball of yarn on the go and you go on a train or on a bus and you can actually sit and knit it, or in the park when you have a break, it's really, really easy. And also the Christmas balls, which is kind of like the same idea of a sock and in the way you knit it, is something that I really love taking with me when we're on tour, especially when we do book signings in bookstores. If nobody comes, at least I know that I can spend 1 hour knitting a Christmas ball.
Does that happen?
That happens sometimes.
Normally when you go to book signings in bookstores, you get all these questions, where's the toilet?
Can you point us to the department where they sell crime stories?
So we don't like go to bookstores for book signings. That's boring.
Much better to go to a yarn store.
Yeah, yarn stores.
Yarn stores, that's much better. Then you have a queue of people who want to get their book signed. But
plus, yarn stores are really good at bringing people. You know, yarn stores, it's all about connecting people socially. So the fact that you can go to a store and take a class and learn something, there's always a table, there's always like a workspace for people to go and learn something. It means that people are more social in a yarn store than in a bookstore where they're just looking for a book.
And also like in Norway and in Denmark, the libraries is a really good place for knitting. So when we go to Denmark and Norway to libraries, we bring all our books. So we sell books in the library.
That's cool.
It's a business idea.
Yesterday when we were talking, I learned a little bit about your sock habits, your sock knitting habits. So you don't do Kitchener stitch at the toes.
No. When we finish a sock, if we start on top and finish on the toe, we just cut the yarn and pull the yarn through like the 12 last stitches or something, and we sew it. We don't spend time doing Kitchener because it's going to be in your shoe anyway, and on your foot it will shape. So we don't spend time on Kitchener.
Yeah. We like to cheat because, I mean, it simplifies things, it makes it easier, and what you can't see is obviously not wrong, so.
Correct. And then what about your heels? You've got a way of doing heels too.
We have two heels we like, and that is the easiest sock in the world. That's where you use scrap yarn, and you finish the whole sock, and then you put in the needles, and you make the heel after. It's like the afterthought heel or something. In Norway, it's called the Russian heel.
Yeah. And then we also love the other heel that we call the second easiest sock in the world, which is a short row heel. I think in German it's a boomerang. It's called the boomerang heel, I think. Yeah, the short row heel. But both of them, when we knit the heel, there's always this situation where we might get a hole. Sometimes on the right side, sometimes on the left side, sometimes on both sides, and sometimes we don't get the hole. And then we've just figured out very amateurish ways to fix them, but it works.
Yeah, what we do if we have a loose stitch or a hole, we just stretch the stitches that is loose until we get a loop. And then we knit as far up as the length of the loop, and then we place the loop on the needle and we knit the loop with a stitch.
And it works every time.
You can tighten any hole that way. Not every hole, but... No, sorry.
Definitely sock corner holes. Okay, so you're working on some new sock yarns, right?
Yeah, it's always a work in process. It's really fun because they're so... that's one of the things that appealed to us so much when we started Regia. The fact that we were going to be working with something very high-tech, and then inserting our own traditional values into it, our colorways. But it's still very high-tech. It's an engineered yarn. And the fun thing about gadgets, as I like to call them, I mean, whether it's an iPhone, a computer, or an engineered yarn, is that the technology is always developing. Things are always getting better. And the possibilities that you have today are not the same as the possibilities you had like 5 years ago. So you push a technical innovation enough so that they can manage to do something, and the next time they can do it even better. And that's what we love, because we know that from one year to another, the advances are so big that we can actually come up with even more creative ideas. That way we're using our creativity to enhance the technical developments, which is really a cool synergy effect that we really like.
That's great. So what's the next big thing, do you think, in sock yarn? Is it changing in any particular way, or are you doing new colors, or what are you doing?
That's a hard question.
Well,
big thing.
We usually work, we're very fixated into working with the colors. Putting the colors together our way, helping people see color through our eyes. Sometimes you see combinations that may not look good at first, but then you see them again and you start really liking them. That's actually a good thing. And in terms of technical developments or in design, it's always about pushing the limitations. In the beginning, there were limitations to like the width or the height of a design. Those things are changing more and more. And we really love challenging Regia, giving them like a really difficult design, and then telling them that, you know, it should be doable, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but in a few years. So
yeah, that's really cool. It's fun to actually have a project that you can continue to work on like that.
yeah, it's always a work in progress.
Yeah. Now you're doing also your first collection for Rowan, right?
Yeah.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, we made a collection for Rowan, and it's in what's it called, felted tweed, and felted tweed mixed with kid silk haze. So 2 threads of kid silk haze. I think that's the 2 we used.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 that we chose. They gave us free reins. They told us that we could do whatever we wanted. And actually, when we presented the collection to David, the brand manager, we'd already made the selection of yarns. And it turned out that they're 2 of the more popular yarns. And I feel personally that both the felted tweed and the kid silk haze, especially the felted tweed, is very unique for Rowan. It really has that Rowan stamp on it. And for us, it was important to challenge ourselves to work with a kind of yarn that we usually don't work with. We've been doing a lot of designing in merino with a lot, with a big color card, doing designs like that. And now suddenly we work with Rowan that has a more limited color palette and these really, really interesting but very different yarns.
Yeah, that's really cool. Should we show some of the designs? Do you think we can?
Yeah.
So how long did it take you to pull this collection together?
We started working with it. It was in our mind we started it last year here at the H&H. The first seeds were planted onto the idea, and from that time until the finished product, we're talking about end of January we did the photo shoot. So it's kind of a very long process from idea to design to sketching to fitting, and then the photo shoot and building the image of the collection.
So like this one.
I'll hold it.
Yeah. This one has this wide shape on the body, so it fits a lot of different shapes, different people. And the pattern is started with inspiration from the X in the X and the O. And if you look at old Norwegian sweaters, there's a lot of X and O's. And in the X, there's always, sometimes, it's a wide line and a thin line. So we took the wide line and the thin line, but we stretched the lines, and we didn't put in the O. So this is kind of a lot of X's who made this woven pattern.
And
so
then,
you see also that it's like basket weave. So the lines go over and under. It was really hard to make that drawing in the computer because your head is so confused. You try to figure out when the line should go over and under. That was really hard.
So basically you can say that this is a deconstruction of a traditional Norwegian pattern. You take it apart and you put it together again. Also the fit is contemporary. We are always looking at what is going on in the industry. Both the fashion industry, especially the fashion industry, and right now there's a lot of oversizing, things that fall, that gravity kind of drapes for you, and this is kind of a very modern cut for this garment.
And on this one we used felted tweed as the base and 2 threads of the kid silk haze in the pattern. We like that mix because when you use kid silk haze on felted tweed, the kid silk haze pops more. So it looks more like what we are used to in traditional Norwegian knitting.
It also creates a whole new fabric.
Exactly, yes.
It's really lovely.
And this is one of the benefits or one of the joys of knitting. You have a thread or 2 threads, and then with those 2 threads and some sticks, you make your own fabric.
And on this one we played with, what you call that in English? Like lace. A lot of people think that we only do this kind of knit, but we also do lace. And for this we made a simple lace where you just knit 2 together and yarn over. And then when it's the same it's the same report going over and over and over, but you just change color. And the fun thing with lace is that it gives these waves. And this is 2 threads of kid silk.
Yeah, and again, a design like that, it has to do with color. It's a way to put colors together, and also to give the knitters that are less experienced in color work the option to be able to knit an ARNE CARLOS design, which is less complex. So if you don't know how to knit with 2 colors, you can still get to knit something that is made by us.
And also what's nice with lace is that sometimes you get a really nice hem.
I think that's it.
So you don't have to have you don't have to have ribbing, because it comes by itself like a edge.
So how many pieces are in the collection?
In the Rowan collection that we've just done is 12 designs. And then we've also done 2 designs for the 40th anniversary magazine, which is also out in the fall. The 40th anniversary magazine has a ruby theme because it's the ruby wedding, I guess, anniversary. So there's a lot of red. And if you look at the wall over there, you can see on the right side, on the top, another one of our oversized pieces, the red sweater with the blue zigzag pattern, which is part of the ruby anniversary collection. Again, an oversized piece with a drop shoulder that will drape differently on different kinds of bodies, but always looking really sharp.
And if you look at the pattern, it's inspired of how you would draw a ruby. So the pattern is actually a ruby.
Literally a ruby.
But if you look close at the pattern, you can actually see some people holding hands in the middle of the sweater. So it's almost like this old pattern you find on a lot of Norwegian mittens, and also on sweaters. We call it the dance, dansebord.
Yeah, the dance pattern.
The dance pattern.
In the Norwegian knitting tradition.
It's normally a man and a woman holding hands. But this came out like 2 very long-legged people. I don't know, it can be anyone, anything.
That's very cool. I love the contrast too of the colors.
Yeah, the colors are actually spectacular. It's the depth of the color in the yarn is really beautiful, and the shades are really luscious and very rich, and yeah. So the yarn is a very good quality, and the dye is just remarkable. So beautiful.
Yeah. Do you have any hints for sweater knitters, like your sock hints?
Sorry, hints for?
Hints for sweater knitters, like your sock hints?
What's that?
Tips till de som strickar gensare.
Oh yeah, for a sweater. Let me see. Tips.
You should say jumper knitters.
Jumper.
Yeah.
Tips. What could that be? That's hard. Actually,
it's a great sock one, so I think you might have one for that.
No, you know, when you make a sweater, you just knit on the round. Like we in Norway, we knit on the round everything, and then we just we place the body on the person or on ourselves, and we just mark the opening for the neck opening, and then we do stitches with yarn to shape the curve, and then we go to the sewing machine and we do a zigzag and we cut out, and then when you make the rib, you pick up stitches on the outside and you knit the height of the rib. Then you knit 2 together and yarn over, and 2 together, yarn over. And then you finish the rib with a little hem. So when you fold the rib over, you get the nice edge, like this. What's it called that?
Yeah, like a little picot.
Picot, yeah. And then you have that extra hem that you fold over the raw edge on the inside. So when you put it on, it looks beautiful. And also, if you do a sleeve, we do the same. We use the sewing machine with zigzag, and we sew around the arm opening. We use the scissor and we cut it open. And then when we make the sleeve, we end the arm top with a little hem. Just knit. So when you put the arm in the garment, you sew it on by sewing machine, and you fold the hem over, and you hide the raw edge. I have more. I could start. Okay, nice.
No, that's fascinating. I've never really talked to anybody who's used a sewing machine so much in their hand.
I think all Norwegians do.
Yeah.
When they stick, yes.
Yeah, we have a video on YouTube where you can show you how we do it, if you wonder.
All right, cool. Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask Arne and Carlos? No? Okay, well, thank you very, very much. It was great chatting with you again.
Thank you. Yeah, lovely chatting to you too.